I've been in foster care for a few years, getting pushed from pillar to post. I felt isolated from my family. My dad says I was like a difficult child to live with. As soon as my dad left me that day, my whole life went with him. I was a right mess and I become homeless.
For all sorts of reasons, people find themselves needing help in matters to do with housing. Homeless people, young people at risk, older people finding it difficult to live independently in their own homes, people with mental health problems or physical disabilities, women at risk of domestic violence, and many more. Vulnerable people who need somewhere safe and secure to live. Who can they turn to? Where do they go for help? Fortunately for people like Robert, Bradford Supporting People is there for them. They buy in services from no less than 60 organisations throughout the Bradford district, which provide such things as supported housing, whether temporary or permanent, hostels, refuges, support for people in their own homes, over 300 different services in all.
I got referred to Bradford Cyrenians. It just made me want to make a difference. Do you know, like what I was doing? I moved in a hostel and that, and my key worker, she was going through like courses and that, and like education, what I can take up and that. She introduced me to Horton Housing Training Centre, and honestly, they were a great laugh down there. I feel better nowadays because like I feel as though I've got more going in me now.
Supporting People is a national programme to provide housing-related support services to vulnerable adults. And here in the Bradford district, it's administered by Bradford Council. And Jane Hellowell is the manager responsible for it.
Well, my role in Supporting People is to manage what is a national programme which funds in Bradford 13,000 vulnerable people across 21 client groups. Central government gives us nearly £20 million in Bradford, of which we give that money to a range of third sector organisations who in turn offer what we call housing related support to a range of vulnerable people, including older people, people with learning disabilities, people with substance misuse and so on.
People like Raymond, whose mental health problems were brought on by drug use.
Well, when I was younger, I was a bit rebellious. I was a teenager. You know how teenagers can be rebellious. It was sort of like 72, 73, I was into the 60s, you know, and I was into drugs, and I took LSD, and then a year later I suffered a breakdown, a schizophrenic breakdown. I suffered from depression, and then it went into psychosis, and I ended up at Limpelmouth Hospital at 17. I recently moved to Queen's Grange. I've lived here now for 2 years, and it's a very good place to be. There's a lot of support here for us, and the staff are very good, very tolerant and very caring, and that helps a lot. You don't get that in a hospital, but you do at Queen's Grange, because the hospital is, you know, very, you know, it's not as intimate as it is at Queen's Grange, and there's more time for us here to hear. I think it is working. Queen's Grange is a wonderful place for those who have suffered mental illness to get better, and I think it's doing me a lot of good being here. The last 2 years I've improved quite a lot. I hope to move into the bungalow here, and that should be giving me more independence, because, as I say, they're very impressed with my progress, and one step at a time I should get better and better, and maybe in a couple of years' time move out into community again and be back to normal, you know, normal life, live a normal life.
If people want information about services that Supporting People funds, whether the general public, health workers, probation services, social workers or any other organisations, they can contact Adult and Community Services at Bradford Council, who can refer people to the most appropriate organisations to meet their needs. It could be any one of the dozens of providers that Supporting People have bought in services from. In Bradford itself, in Keighley, Ilkley, Baildon, Shipley, throughout the region. Organisations that can help people find somewhere to live or carry on living in their own home.
Life, especially for Jim, was getting very difficult. We're living at a tall, thin house, and we've got 3 flights of stairs for a start, and they're very steep. and Jim was having difficulty getting up the stairs, getting into the baths, getting out of it, getting around. I was getting extremely worried. I knew I'd be able to cope, but how would Jim cope? We only had our pensions. We had a small pension from the Air Force, and everything was going up and up and up, and there was just absolutely no way I could see of anything getting any better.
Irene and her husband felt they were no longer able to live in their own home. But Anchor Staying Put, one of the organisations that Bradford Supporting People buys in services from, was able to help by contacting various agencies on their behalf.
Once I contacted Anchor, they said they'd get in touch with occupational therapy to see about getting some aids for Jim, and they would get in touch with various agencies on our behalf. SAFA, Royal Air Force Association, places like that. It's made a tremendous difference. For a start, we got a completely new central heating system. We got a stair lift so Jim can now get upstairs. We got a chair, a recliner upriser, so we can get out and about easily. You know, I'm so much happier, and Jim is so much happier because he's got so much more independence. It's the dignity that's in it. 8 wars is 14, and to be reduced to crawling up your stairs on your hands and knees. It's not on, is it?
Working with so many different service providers means that Bradford Supporting People can meet a range of needs.
The services that we buy in from those providers, their responsibility is to make sure that the vulnerable people are supported to what we call live independent lives. Now that might mean if somebody is, say, older and frail and live in their own home, they're supported to be socially included, get out of the house, and importantly, you know, that they see somebody, they have contact with somebody, or that they're paying the bills, they're going to the health services, and it's real low-level preventative services, but in the long term it really helps people to remain as independent as possible. We also operate a very robust contract management process which involves us looking at the quality of the services, the cost, and whether they're performing well. So when we put all that information together, that'll give us a very good understanding of how well that service is operated. But importantly, it is what the service users tell us about that service that we want to capture, to make sure that we continue to support good organisations, and also that where organisations are not providing us good quality service, they're supported to improve.
Supporting People is committed to ensuring service users are involved with the development, delivery and management of the programme. There is a service user involvement group that looks at influencing the programme in a number of areas and has trained service users to check the quality of services by becoming peer reviewers and mystery shoppers. Having somewhere to live isn't the only thing that people like Katie need. They also need help in making positive changes to their lives.
Before I come to TWP, I was drinking all the time. I got abused and stuff like that by an older man. I had a child through it, and I was just depressed. And I did all the things she wanted me to do, like the anger management, and that helped. It made me brighter. I did all like courses and stuff to get me there, and it made my day, you know. I was happy and I was smiling and I didn't feel down anymore. My son's happy, he knows who I am. My family are happy and I'm happy myself, and that's more important than anything else.
Everyone has different needs and different aspirations, and that's reflected in support plans which are unique to each individual. Their needs now and in the future, the things that are important to them, their goals and the help they might need in reaching them. All these and more are taken into account in drawing up a plan, which will help them achieve 5 key goals. To achieve economic well-being by maximising their income, reducing debt, getting paid work. To enjoy and achieve through such things as taking part in training or education, leisure or cultural activities, social contact with family and friends. To look after their health, both physical and mental, including managing things like substance misuse. To stay safe, avoiding being harmed or harming others, and know who to contact in an emergency. To make a positive contribution, to develop confidence, be able to make choices, and to get involved where they live. Some people's needs are relatively straightforward, but for others, a whole range of support services may be needed, if they're to have the chance of leading safe, happy, fulfilling lives.
There have been times when I've really been low. I suffered with really bad depression. I wasn't an outgoing person. It came to a point where I didn't want to do anything really, basically. Just wanted to stay in the house, not communicate with no family or friends. Wanted to do things with myself, but not with anybody else. I got to a point where I just almost wanted to commit suicide. I've been to a few counselling sessions to overcome my depression. Things have worked out for me a lot more better than I ever thought they would be. And my support worker, she's brought me to this training centre. She got me to be a client over here as to doing my courses and everything. And here I am today, overcome all my problems, a lot more happier, better as a person, and enjoying my life, enjoying every moment of it.
With the right support, people's lives can be made so much richer. But what if they didn't get that support?
I was worried that we might not be able to stay here eventually. There was no way, even if I had to crawl on my hands and knees, I was going to let Jim go into a home.
I don't know where I'd have been without the fire. I certainly wouldn't have been working for Bradford and Bingley, and I certainly wouldn't be looking into moving into my own accommodation within the next few months.
I was even dreading to think where I'd be in the future, you know, whether I'd wake up or not.
All sorts of circumstances, all sorts of people, all sorts of problems relating to housing. But the Supporting People programme in Bradford can work towards solving these problems, find somewhere safe and secure to live, and help vulnerable people turn their lives around.
I had a really bad family breakdown. My dad threw me out, ended up staying with my fiancée and her grandparents. But then that kind of broke down with her falling out with her dad, really. So I left there. I've lived rough a few times, and at that point I was sleeping between houses, and a friend of mine moved in here the month before I did, and it was through him that I actually realised it existed and basically applied straight away, just so that I'd had some sort of stable accommodation, which before here I hadn't had for about 2 years. It gave me someone to talk to when I needed to, because everyone has an assigned support worker. You have a meeting every week, and they've put me on courses which have helped. I mean, did a course with the BBC which got me back on my feet again, and following on from that I went on a course with Business Action on Homelessness, which in the end actually led on to my employment.
Robert's got high hopes for the future too. Thanks to Bradford Supporting People and the help he's been given, his days of homelessness are behind him. But he still remembers how it feels having nowhere to live. Feelings he expressed in a poem which was included in this collection of work by the Hidden Homeless.
I painted a picture and looked at my history, tried planning my ways and thought of the mystery. With nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, I was sick of hearing access denied, just to realise it's the same at sunrise. With all this ambition to go forth for planning permission, it's about time I made the right move and the right decision. Coming up against brick walls that I could not imagine to climb. Probation is the reason I don't turn back to crime. I sit and wonder just to pass time and try, picture and combine a perfect sweet lifetime.
For more information about how Bradford Supporting People can help you, or if you know someone who needs their help, then call 01274 434 456 or visit our website www.bradford.gov.uk/supporting people.